There is something incredibly magical about places that border on multiple countries. Basel is one of those places, and it absolutely surprised me with its beauty. It is a smallish town in Switzerland, nestled on the Rhine River. It is linguistically fascinating. It is the home of Roger Federer. Did you know that? And people float to work in the river on a thing called wickelfish. I mean, come on. And something I could immediately sense when I was walking the streets is that the city loves art. And to me, this was not any kind of art. It reminded me of walking through Florence a few years ago, where the arts have a long history, where they are being respected on a whole different level. Artistic skills are being passed on from generation to generation, and the whole creative process is just a bit slower, and it feels really, really intentional. Entschleunigung. This is a word that immediately came to mind, and I have trouble translating it into English, but the general meaning is the intentional slowing down of an activity or a development. And this is exactly what happened to me in Basel, but unintentionally. The mere fact of changing my scenery and interrupting my daily routine just opened up so much space and offered fertile ground for creativity to grow. Story time! So let me give you a little bit of a backstory. I decided to go to Germany to get my second vaccine because in Switzerland, as an expat, it is quite expensive. So I looked on the map and found the closest German village just outside of Switzerland. When I set foot on this train, I immediately felt this tingling in my chest that I always get when I go traveling, and I decided to have an adventure, to go somewhere that I haven't been before after my appointment and just explore. In German we call it Fahrt ins Blaue. It's actually a pretty fun phrase, I have to use it more. So I looked on the map and saw Basel, where I have never been, never really heard much about this place, and I thought that was the best place to go to. So when I arrived, I just started walking, I took out my camera, took a few shots here and there, and then sat down by the river and took out my journal and actually journaled heaps and heaps about creativity and what it feels like to me. I then made my way to the other side of the city over a really beautiful looking bridge, and it's more of the old part of the town, and it reminded me a lot of Hogwarts. And there was this one street that particularly called me. I was going up this road overlooking the water and a beautiful church on one side, and on the other like lots of old shops. And this particular shop was so interesting to me that I stood there for probably 10 minutes and just looked at what things were sold there. I was dreaming about what could be done with those pens and inks and quills, and who made these things, who worked here, and what used to happen in the store back in the days, because it was so old. A little while later, I could feel a tap on my shoulder by this old but really kind looking man, and he just smiled at me and he was like, "I can tell you really like this store. It belongs to my twin brother, but you can go in. I let you in and you can explore a little bit yourself." When I stepped into the store, I immediately felt like this is where I need to be. This man was like a long lost friend. We started talking about the most interesting things. He told me about his life story, what kind of art he does, about his hut in the forest where he creates, and he pointed to the old bricks of the building that are connected to the church above us. He pointed to the inks that are handmade by his brother with some really interesting ingredients and that he uses for his art, which by the way is beautiful. He showed me the meteorites and the ammonites, and I was just in love with this place. Then he told me, hear this, about the importance of slowing down and what it means for his own creative process, just how important it is to hold on to your core beliefs and your values. And that just so hit home. And this whole trip just started to evolve into this important experience for me to remember the connection between slowing down and creativity. And I mean, it makes total sense. There's just no way you can constantly create without a time of reflection. Otherwise, I think you will just end up repeating other people's thoughts and ideas, and that's not being critical and a critical artist. This is also not a place from which change happens, and this is what I think we need desperately in this world right now. A replacement of current structures by alternatives. And I think that is actually what university currently is teaching and what has been upsetting me for a very long time. And I've always found in uni that I've never had enough time to let the ideas that I've gotten simmer and question them. I think this is actually what people naturally would want to do. I think our body tells us really soon when we need a break and we need to slow down. But you know, oftentimes we tell ourselves, no, you have to continue working because this is what we do. Just a little bit of blabbering about this topic and my experience. A big shout out to Abraxas, the store that I was in. It is a calligraphy store actually in Basel, so if you ever want to go, please do, you will not regret it. And if you're curious, also Google the word Abraxas, the history of it, what it actually means, where it comes from. It takes you down a rabbit hole, I promise you. And I think I might actually do a whole video on this because it is so interesting. So yeah, this is my story about Basel and creativity and slowing down. I could continue talking for so long, but I hope I summarized it okay. I would love to know your experiences with creativity and slowing down, or maybe you have a completely different experience with it all, so please comment down below. I would be super curious to read it, and I will see you in the next video. There's a really interesting one coming that is closely related to creativity, so I see you then.